Alright, so after all this build-up we've been following for the past 17 issues, T'Challa and Ororo finally make their move. And as we know, this is tied to a prophecy that's been in Wakanda for generations, with some individuals trying to force it into fruition recently, but there's so much more connected to it. So with that said, if you need to get caught up, I got the full playlist in the description. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so coming back, this continues in Nigeria, with the two spirits that have been unleashed from the dark vibranium, with one being the progenitor, who was the first spirit to find the physical body, and the other being a spirit that he placed into the body of the CIA agent from the North American Union named Helen Fortin. But coming back, we pick up a brief conversation between the two that tells us a little more about them, starting with their actual names, because it's here where the progenitor says, "This flesh won't embrace us for long, Zakal. We are here to seed our kingdom, to claim what we have given, to force them to serve." And that's where she responds saying, "And we shall, Zanon." And it had me thinking, with us finally getting this information, it had me thinking like, oh, so that was their Kryptonian names before they got sent to the Phantom Zone. But no, jokes aside, there's still a lot that we have to learn about their history and the story behind these angry spirits inside of the vibranium, because a lot of those details are still a mystery at this point. But then it's here where Zakal goes on to say, "My love, why do we speak their language? Why not our own?" And that's where Zanon tells her, "Because this is their world. When it is ours, we will speak in our melodies, only for someone else to approach them saying, 'We wish to help you claim it.'" And this person, as many of you might have guessed, is none other than Matron Amala, who, like we saw in issue 17, revealed her hand to Okoye and Killmonger, with her admitting that she'd always known the truth about vibranium, the progenitor, and his people. In addition to killing T'Challa's father, empowering Khonshu, and basically provoking this war so that T'Challa would bring forth an heir with someone who was not his wife, Okoye. So as we know, Matron Amala's been busy out here, stirring up problems all over the upper and lower kingdoms. But when she comes here to have a word with the progenitor, he's not really interested in listening to anything she has to say, and he really treats her like a pest more than anything else. Because as soon as she gets here, she bows before him and he tells her, "I could kill you with a word." And that's where she tells him, "Then it's nothing for you to listen to my words. Please." And right away Zakal's just like, enough, as she gets ready to strike Matron Amala. But before she does, Zanon stops her, and he gives the matron an opportunity to speak. So right away she starts giving all the pleasantries, with her saying, "My gratitude, my sect has worshipped your truth for generations. I am the last in a line that have silently awaited your return." And right here the progenitor's basically like, enough, with a non-skippable compliment, because he stops her in mid-sentence, lifts her off the ground, just before telling her, "And that matters not to me. You have a moment to make me care about your life. Use it wisely, woman," as he just turns to the side and holds her over the cliff. So with Matron Amala knowing that these could very much be her last words, she tells him, "Wakanda has your element, and I hold its secrets." And that in itself is enough for him to pull her back up and toss her over back on the ground. So she tells him here, "There is a body that is meant to hold you." And that's when Zanon's like, "Then I'll march into Wakanda and claim it," only for the matron to tell him, "You can't, because it has yet to be born. Let me share the prophecy with you and give you purpose." And now this cuts away before we see the matron explain anything, but it's not really needed because earlier on in this series, Matron Amala told this prophecy to T'Challa, which spoke of him meeting a woman of light who his fate would be intertwined with, and how between the two of them a bond would be made during war, which would lead to her giving him the heir that Wakanda has been waiting for generations. And again, lately, this is something that the matron has been trying to secure through her actions, so that T'Challa and Storm could bring forth a child that's extremely powerful. But as it turns out, this prophecy, its goal is to provide a suitable host for the progenitor. Now following this, we head over to the defense minister of Nigeria, who's just been told that he has a masked visitor on the way. So they take him to the top floor of the building and they're like, "He's not gonna find you here." And they put him in what's basically a heavily guarded safe room. And he's even told here to have a seat and have a drink, but he's just like, "We'll both drink when I'm looking at this man's dead body." And right after that, when we go outside, it just cuts to T'Challa taking out a whole group of soldiers before they can even get a shot off. And there's this part where he kicks this one dude who's like the unit leader into the back seat of a car. And it's almost like, T'Challa, were you aiming for that? Because it feels very intentional. And even when he makes his way up to the top floor, when he opens the door at the end of the hallway, we see the soldiers who are guarding the safe room, and they're just like, "Hold steady all night if we must." And when T'Challa gets there, he just tells them, "I will not kill you, but if I have to go through you, you may not be the same when I'm finished." And I'm sure they're looking at him like, man, this guy really thinks he's Batman. And they don't waste no time before they just open fire. And by the time that they stop, the hallway is just shredded, with no sign of a body, until there is a sign of a body running right towards them. And when T'Challa moves in, he makes good on his word. Because like he said, if he has to go through them, they're not gonna be the same. So just think of this as him making everybody different. You know, with a cracked rib here, fractured skull there, 32 teeth, who needs all that? And when he gets to the last guy, he just stomps this dude's knee like, you don't need that ACL. What you doing with that? Only to twist his right arm and break his left elbow, because you can never let them know your next move. And when he's done, he gets one of these guys to talk and tell him how to get into the room, where inside the defense minister changed his mind about waiting on that drink. And when he's told here that the sounds outside were gunfire, he's just like, the gunfire doesn't concern me. And when he's asked what does, he says the silence. Because yeah, if your men are not shooting and no one's reported anything back, that's a problem. And without warning, T'Challa just comes crashing in through the ceiling. And he tells them here, if you want to walk out of this room, one of you needs to tell me where this gateway is. Which right there is referring to T'Challa's direct plan from issue 16, when T'Challa and Storm first found out about the gateway. And not long after this, we head back over to the small safe house, which looks like a ranch house that T'Challa and Storm have been using while on their mission out here in Nigeria. And when we get here, Storm, she literally uses lightning to start a campfire. Because I mean, why not? And when she does, it's around this time where T'Challa gets back. So he sees her doing it and he's like, you know, a match would have been easier. Only for her to tell him, I prefer Self-Reliance King. And right after that, she gets down to business because she asks if they told him where the gateway is. And T'Challa's just like, they did. Took some theatrical convincing and a few broken bones, but he eventually got the information he needed. And right after that, Aurora was just like, plan. Just going straight to the next step, like what's next? And I wouldn't even say that this is her being callous or cold towards him, but instead it just lines up with what we saw in issue 16, back when they were out here in a very similar setting, similar tone, and they had this whole conversation where they both admitted to each other that they're afraid, which then led to the both of them opening up a bit more. But even then, Aurora told him directly to use the information he's found so far, find a path and figure it out, which is exactly what he did. So now she's literally taking that same approach, though with fewer words. So with her now asking what's the plan or what's the next move, T'Challa tells her by first making sense of what they know right now. Cause he says here, a gateway means something wants to come through it, something connected to vibranium. So we destroy it. Which right there just makes me think about how sometimes it's really just that simple. But then it leads into a much deeper conversation, because next she asks about the creature, since it's using Eddie's body against his will. And T'Challa's just like, we destroy him too. Whereas like in that case, yeah, it's a tough call. But with what's at stake, they can't afford to take any chances. And then Aurora says here, you built your kingdom on material you did not understand. If I were Wakandan, I would not trust the Black Panther to protect me. So he tells her you could be a Wakandan and help strengthen that trust. And it's kind of funny to hear him say that because it's literally part of Queen Okoye's job. Like we saw in issue 4 when T'Challa went missing and she needed to instill more confidence in the people of Wakanda. And even though it's subtle, it's really not that surprising, because ever since Matron Amala told T'Challa the prophecy about him meeting this woman of light and going a bond with her in a time of war, as soon as T'Challa met Aurora, the first time he laid eyes on her, he was like, oh, that's her. And since then, we've seen a number of times where he's tried to orchestrate these moments where him and Storm would be alone together, even right in front of Okoye and Eric. And I don't think Eric noticed at the time, but Okoye definitely had a look on her face, back when T'Challa tried to send the two of them to go find help, which would later turn out to be the Sorceress Supreme, only for Storm to be like, no, I'll go with Eric. So it was like anytime he tried to make this happen, it wouldn't work. But then when he stopped trying and the war continued, it came to the point where T'Challa was about to do this mission by himself, only for Eric to suggest that Storm goes with them. So when T'Challa stopped trying, not only did him and Aurora spend more time together, but it also led to them having deeper conversations. But in the here and now, with T'Challa telling Aurora how she could be a Wakandan and help strengthen that trust, she just tells him here, I do not nest well. I confuse roots and anchors. And that's where he asks, so what future do you see for yourself? You and Eric ripping your way through the world? So she tells him, I want to free this continent of all that would shame her, and then punish anyone who would try. And right there, T'Challa just tells her, I'm sorry for what you've been through, Aurora. Which she immediately takes as disrespect, because she's like, what happened to me? I didn't say anything happened to me. So he tells her, you didn't have to. Anyone driven to create justice as you are must have been denied it. And for that, I am sorry. So Aurora jumps up like, don't you dare pity me, King. And right there he tells her, I don't pity you, Aurora. And it's really from this point forward where you can tell that the two of them are having a whole nother conversation on top of what's being said. Because when Storm gives him this look, T'Challa gets up and he's like, you should not look at me like that. Because in issue 14, T'Challa told Eric that Aurora looks at him like he stole something. And that was at a time when T'Challa felt like he couldn't even get close to her. So she tells him here, then turn from me, because I will do what pleases me. Because unlike you, I'm not bound by rules, or legacy, or title, or Eric. And I mean, that last one was really direct. But on both ends, with T'Challa stepping in closer when she gave him that look, as well as Thor making it clear that she's not bound to Eric, she's got her hand on his chest now, and they're both picking up all the subtle clues. And to make it even clearer, without either of them being too conspicuous, Ororo tells him here that it's going to rain, which is a callback to what she mentioned before about the rain comforting her. And in a way, it's her admitting in this moment that she's nervous. So now with the both of them picking up all the subtle clues that they've been dropping from one to the other, because up to this point it's been a very careful balance between what can be said and what can't, because when you're getting ready to cheat, you want to make sure everybody's on the same page, but at the same time you can't be too confident, because the next thing you know, both of y'all are at a Coldplay concert getting caught on the kiss cam. But in this moment, the two of them, they get a bit more direct, because T'Challa tells her that he can't do this, and that's when Ororo says, then walk away in the rain, which is basically her telling him to walk away and leave her in her discomfort. And Ororo's like, but you won't do that, will you? And I mean, at this point, they're holding hands. He touches her face, stares deeply into her eyes, just before she tells him, we are not in Wakanda, and here, you rule nothing. And it's almost like her saying that he's not bound to anything right now either. And right after that, the two of them kiss. And this just has me like, man, what's gonna happen when they go back to Wakanda? And I mean, after they take care of the gate and all that. But imagine when they go back to Wakanda and see Killmonger on the throne talking about, man, T'Challa, your girl made a move on me. Only for Storm to cut in and be like, I'm pregnant. Like, what in the Trapped in Wakanda is happening here? Like, are we gonna have a moment where the cameraman's chasing the storm when we find out Killmonger's not the father? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for more. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.